and it's just an embarrassing mess.
And I have no problem telling him to get the out of here.
I'll give you a kick with the if that was my son.
You won't believe what happened to these hotels after Chef Ramsay left. Remember our very own singing queen, Kali Szczawinski, the owner of Maison de Mesilla, located in Las Cruces, New Mexico. This hotel was Kali Szczawinski's passion project. She had purchased the property back in 2006 for $1.2 million and then poured another $1.2 mil into renovations.
2006, and completely remodeled it, putting her own distinctive taste and style into every aspect.
But despite that massive investment, running a hotel wasn't exactly her lifelong dream.
How can I get anything done if that won't put back?
What she had really wanted was to be a singer. But when that career didn't take off, she found another way to stay in the spotlight by buying a hotel and turning it into her personal performance venue. The problem? Her singing was, well, let's just say it wasn't winning over any fans. But Szczawinski wasn't about to let that stop her. She didn't just build one stage in the hotel, she built three. One in the restaurant, one by the pool, and another in the bar area. And who was the star performer on all three? That's right, only her. So instead of guests enjoying a peaceful meal or a relaxing evening, they were subjected to her not-so-soothing performances, whether they liked it or not.
After that song, I need a little drink.
One of the most unforgettable moments of the episode was when Szczawinski took center stage to belt out If I Could Turn Back Time by Cher. And honestly, it was painful to sit through. Purchasing the hotel didn't bring her the fame she was hoping for. Instead, it made her a joke. Instead of focusing on running a successful business, she became a walking distraction, driving customers away.
Right here.
We're basically ready to get our food to go because we waited so long.
Okay. I do not believe the customer is always right.
Hotels are all about hospitality, but that seemed to be the last thing on Szczawinski's mind. Her guests didn't feel relaxed, welcomed, or even remotely comfortable.
Not a place that I would feel comfortable staying.
And it wasn't just because of her singing, she was just a bad hotel owner in general. Instead of making people feel at home, she made them sign a waiver the moment they arrived, basically accusing them of being a potential threat to her expensive Venetian plaster walls. Chef Ramsay's reaction when he was handed the waiver. Exactly what you'd expect.
No, sir.
I'm not gonna sign that. By the way, welcome. Good to see you.
And that wasn't the only issue. The hotel didn't even have proper signage, which meant guests, Chef Ramsay included, often got lost trying to find it, even with GPS.
The vinyl were, disgusting.
Inside, the decor wasn't doing the place any favors either. It was boring, monochromatic, and filled with tacky drapes and table covers. And then there was the food, supposedly inspired by the flavors of Tuscany, but in reality, it was nowhere close.
It is not a taste of Tuscany. It's not funny, it's a cluster.
And let's not forget about the pool. It was filthy. When Chef Ramsay asked about it, Szczawinski's response was just as ridiculous as the rest of her management choices.
What on earth is going on here?
With so many issues under one roof, it was no surprise that the staff was miserable. They revealed that Szczawinski wasn't just difficult to work with, she was downright rude. And the worst part, she was so stubborn that she wouldn't even let her own chef have a say in the restaurant's menu.
I'm not allowed to change anything.
Oh my God.
And of course, there was also the general manager, Zan. He spread rumors about Szczawinski and badmouthed her behind her back. And when it all came to a head, things got messy.
You're fired.
Of course, the real wake-up call came when Chef Ramsay took Szczawinski to meet the hotel guests and hear their honest feedback. And dare I say, she was in for a rude shock.
I would pay you $100 not to sing.
That's when it finally hit her. The problem wasn't anything or anyone else, it was her. She finally admitted that she needed to change.
To stay in this hotel again, please raise your hands. No one. Thank you to you all.
With that, Chef Ramsay and his team got to work, completely transforming the hotel overnight. But her reaction? Instead of appreciating the effort, she actually complained and asked for the old tapestry and plastic drapes back. Chef Ramsay's response? Exactly what you'd expect.
And you start putting the tea on edge because you want plastic grapes. Here's what I'm gonna do for you.
Anyway, Chef Ramsay gave Szydłowski one last gift, something to finally make her stop singing. Wondering what it was? Here you go.
I put your microphone in a block of ice.
Now, this.
After Hotel Hell, Maison de Massilia reportedly saw an increase in sales. Szydłowski stuck with most of Chef Ramsay's changes, but also made a few minor tweaks of her own. However, in August 20th of 14, she sold the hotel for $2.85 million. Eventually, in March 20th of 17, the hotel was sold again. Today, it operates under a new name, Hacienda de Massilia, and the reviews are positive. But nothing is going to prepare you for what happened with this next hotel after Chef Ramsay's visit.
The Applegate River Lodge, it's been a way of life here for my family for about 22 years.
So, Richard Davis was one of the owners of the Applegate River Lodge, a lodge tucked away in Applegate, Oregon. As time passed, the family fell apart, and keeping the business afloat became an uphill battle.
Having that much workload, the stress is just unbearable.
Now, when it came to running the place, Davis was about as useless as it gets. The only thing he seemed remotely passionate about? Getting high. Meanwhile, his sons, Dusty and Duke, weren't exactly on good terms.
It really cut to the core. And I have no problem telling him to get out of here.
I'd give you a kick with the if that was my son.
And all the financial pressure? Yeah, it landed entirely on Joanna's shoulders.
The Applegate River Lodge, it's been a way of life here for my family for about 22 years.
Rather than stepping up and trying to bring his family and business back to life, Davis stayed lost in his own little world. But just how bad did things get? Oh, just wait.
I just totally f***ing disagree with what you're doing. It should be none of your concern.
There's a big window.
You don't have anything to do with this
Restaurant.
The second Ramsay arrived, the first thing to hit him hard was the smell. And it wasn't just a little musty. This was next level bad. A stale, pungent, almost suffocating stench seemed to seep into every inch of the place, making it impossible to ignore. But that wasn't even the worst part. Just when Ramsay thought he had seen it all, something caught his eye, a jar full of herbs. And all David could come up with was some weak excuse.
Get up. Smell.
What is that smell?
Incense. They're right here.
Incense?
Yeah, it's herbs. It's a medicinal herb.
I love herbs, especially the freshness of them.
You can use it for cooking if you want to do a really nice fettuccine.
Okay.
Yeah, Ramsay wasn't buying it. But you have to see what happened next.
Is this cannabis?
Yes.
As if being a full-time junkie wasn't bad enough, Davis was also completely delusional. At this point, it was clear Davis didn't care about the hotel, the guests, or even his own family. All he cared about was getting high. He was so deep into it that he even offered some to the guests.
Oh, we're just blessed people.
Having $1 million in debt is not blessed.
First of all, you don't understand what you're talking about. You're talking business. You're a businessman.
Where's the business?
I'm not a businessman, and I don't try to teach these people to be business people.
While all of this was going on, the tension between Dusty and Duke kept building, and Joanna was desperately trying to hold things together.
Shut the up, both of
It's
you.
him. He hates me.
Listen,
What would you like me to do? What would
I want to see you grow up and turn into a real man. I want to see you.
Oh, like you're a
I want to see you be able to go and call.
what
Guys,
makes you
guys.
special?
My God.
But Davis? He was the only one completely unfazed. It was like nothing could get through to him. And that's what made it all the more heartbreaking. Davis had once poured his heart and soul into building this lodge, but somewhere along the way, he just checked out.
Richard, there's a business meeting.
Okay.
You're not really involved running the business.
Right.
Okay? And I think you need to let these guys deal with the business.
Seeing him like this, completely detached from everything, was shocking. It was like he had given up on the hotel, on his family, and on himself. Then came one of Chef Ramsay's sit-downs with the family. The conversation was tense, emotions were running high, and everyone was invested. Except for Davis. And Ramsay had had enough.
I would ask you to disappear.
What a shame, right? The hotel was sold in 2022, this time to new owners who decided to give it yet another fresh start. This time, it was rebranded as the Lindsay Lodge, and reviews are pretty mixed. On Yelp, the feedback seems to be split. The hotel and wedding services have received a fair share of negative reviews, while the restaurant has gotten much more positive attention. Over on TripAdvisor, the story is pretty much the same. People have mixed feelings about everything. The accommodation, service, food, and wedding experience all seem to be hit or miss, depending on who you ask. But then again, what happened at Vienna Inn almost makes what went down post-hotel hell seem tame. Well, almost.
You have to have something in it to make up that white space. What would you suggest?
My wife.
Located in Southbridge, Massachusetts, Vienna Inn was an Austrian-themed hotel run by Jonathan and Lisa Kroc. But what really made this place stand out? The insane rumors flying around town. And when I say insane, I mean next level wild. People had been talking, and what they were saying about this place. Well,
You have those rumors going around. People say, oh, the Vienna, they're all swingers. It's a big brothel.
of course, the reality was far less dramatic. That infamous, supposedly creepy basement? It wasn't some disturbing secret hideout. It was just a simple wine cellar and mineral spa. Not exactly the scandal everyone had built it up to be.
Wow. Look at this. My God. Some really expensive stuff. This is crazy.
But let's be honest, rumors were the least of their problems. The real nightmare started the moment Chef Ramsay arrived. And within minutes, he stumbled upon something truly horrifying.
What happened to him? He didn't last very long, did he?
A dead cat. And believe it or not, that was just the beginning. Jonathan and Lisa might have tried to act like they were on the same page, but it didn't take long to see the truth. Their marriage and their business were both falling apart. And if their constant arguing wasn't already a massive red flag, they had this one bizarre little habit that made things even worse.
So there's no boundaries. They'll come down after the shift at the end of the night and they'll have cigars, have some drinks.
Lisa in particular had a very special way of making guests uncomfortable. And no, that's not an exaggeration. Just take a look at this.
The environment can quickly become unprofessional.
She'll go up to a table and ask them about like their sex lives.
You are good looking.
How on earth did she ever think that was okay? Naturally, Chef Ramsay had a lot of questions. And when he finally confronted Lisa about her behavior, her reaction was, well, interesting to say the least.
But you have to have something in it to make up that white space.
But if you thought that was bad, just wait until Ramsay steps into the kitchen.
That is bacon. Should be on a different shelf.
And this here?
And trust me, it only got worse from there. Calling the situation at Vienna Inn a disaster would be an understatement. This place was an absolute mess.
How come the food just sits there?
The customers frustrated, the food barely edible, and Lisa, she refused to take any form of criticism. Instead of using feedback as an opportunity to improve, she immediately went on the defensive, unwilling to acknowledge any faults.
I thought we were friends, and I thought you would have maybe told us if you felt the food sucked that much. You know, it's really, gosh, I feel like I want to pass out right now.
However, as difficult as she was with customers, her treatment of her own employees was even worse. The way she spoke to and handled her staff was nothing short of unacceptable.
Everyone wears this.
Wow. How much are the outfits?
About $300, $400.
$300?
Average, you know.
And just when it seemed like she could not be more out of touch, she made this statement.
Oh, they have them for many years, and it reminds them to not gain weight.
That alone summed up everything. No humility, no accountability. By this point, he had recognized the true problem. The issue was not just a struggling business, it was Lisa's unwavering arrogance.
No light bulb. Oops. Excuse me. You see, Jamie. No light bulb in there. I just wanted to turn the light on.
Don't worry about it.
Despite all of Ramsay's efforts to help revitalize the inn, her appreciation was practically non-existent. And unsurprisingly, not even a full renovation could salvage what was already a lost cause. The reason why? That much was obvious.
These are different chairs from the other ones, aren't they? No? I was just seeing if it was 100% cotton. It is. Is that a pullout?
No, it doesn't need to be a pull-out.
Not long after Ramsay's departure, Jonathan and Lisa disregarded all of his hard work and quickly reverted to their previous ways. Then karma struck. A fire broke out in the parlor room, causing $75,000 in damages. To make matters worse, the smoke detectors never even went off. By 2018, Vienna Inn had officially reached rock bottom. The once promising establishment was ultimately sold for a mere $30,000. Lisa's stubbornness and refusal to change sealed its fate. She had no one to blame but herself. But have you ever wondered what happened to the only hotel where Chef Ramsay had the guests evacuated?
Joke. This is insane. Okay, I'm done.
Let's take a closer look at the absolute mess this place was in.
Over the last 3 hours, all I've done is a bacteria test.
I want to apologize to all of you.
Let's dive into the Brick Hotel, a supposedly iconic establishment in Newtown, Pennsylvania. Now, when you hear that a hotel was built in 1763, you'd expect something with rich history, timeless elegance, and old-world charm. But instead, what Ramsey walked into was a dust-covered disaster.
What happened here?
Oh, oh my.
Damn.
Just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, a housekeeper led Ramsey into one of the guest rooms, and what they found was downright horrifying.
Is that mold?
That is mold.
Yes, I said that.
That's mold.
And if that wasn't bad enough, Ramsey noticed just how filthy the curtains were, and when he pointed it out, the housekeeper's response was unbelievable. She genuinely thought that was their original color.
I thought that the curtains were gold.
Let that sink in. The curtains had been so dirty for so long that nobody even remembered what they were supposed to look like. And when Ramsey finally made his way to his own room, room 201, it was no surprise. It was just as much of a disaster as everything else.
Right now, it's pretty obvious that the owner doesn't even put a cent back into this room.
The first thing that greeted him? A thick layer of dust. And not just any dust, this was the kind that made you wonder if anyone had set foot in that room in years.
Checkout time, 11 a.m. Yeah, I'll check out way before that, my love.
But then, things got even worse. Ramsey pulled out his bacteria testing kit because at this point, he had to know just how filthy the room really was. First, he tested a stained chair, and the reading? A horrifying result of
446.
Absolutely disgusting. But somehow, that wasn't even the worst part. Next, he tested the shower curtain, and the bacteria count? Even higher.
5,680. What in the...
At this point, it's a miracle Ramsey didn't just pack his bags and leave on the spot. And where was CJ, the co-owner, in all of this? Oh, here's an interesting fact. He had never even stayed at the hotel. Not once since buying it.
No, I've never stayed here.
You've never stayed here in 10 years?
No.
Wow, so you bought a hotel, you invested in it with Mum, and you've never stayed here.
That's right. The man responsible for running the place never bothered to experience it firsthand. If that doesn't say everything about how poorly this place was managed, nothing will. By this point, Chef Ramsey had completely had it. He stormed into a room where actual paying guests were staying, and in a moment that made everyone's stomach turn, he peeled back the carpet. And what was underneath?
Mold underneath.
No, you did not. No, you did not, really. No.
That is disgusting.
Years, maybe even decades, worth of mold and filth. There was only one thing left to do. Ramsey immediately evacuated the guests.
I'm done.
He couldn't, in good conscience, allow people to stay in a place that was practically a biohazard. In all honesty, this was probably the kindest thing he could have done for them.
We all ate here. We were all planning on staying here, and you're smiling like a smirk on your face.
This was beyond just needing a deep clean drastic action was necessary. But even after all of this, the owner remained completely unbothered, full of excuses instead of taking responsibility.
If I say anything, it's not believed, so what's the point?
What do you mean it's not believed? What is wrong with you?
But I can...
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
Of course, there was no real competition here. Ramsey won hands down. This was never supposed to be a fight, but the owner's attitude forced him to take such an extreme step.
Right now, and shut this place down.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I'm so sorry.
The Brick Hotel was supposed to be a historic landmark. Instead of being treated with the respect it deserved, it had been left to rot. But after Ramsey's intervention, things did improve, at least for a while. CJ became more involved, allowing Verandar to take a step back. This gave the staff the freedom to actually do their jobs. Employee turnover at an all-time low. The manager even started addressing online criticism, and a major renovation was planned. CJ also denied rumors that the hotel was for sale. But unfortunately, old habits die hard. Despite the changes, Yelp and TripAdvisor reviews for the restaurant remained mostly negative. Some receipts even surfaced showing unexpectedly high prices. By 2018, the hotel had new owners, underwent a renovation, and was rebranded as Rocco's at the Brick. And the verdict? TripAdvisor reviews were mixed. But wait until you hear what happened to another nightmare of an owner, John Imhoff, after Hotel Hell aired.
Hotel experience prior to this was what?
Very, very little. I mean, I was...
No, none.
None.
Imhoff had a background in law and the military, and while he may have thrived in those fields, his skills as a hotel owner, an absolute disaster. In 2007, he purchased the Cambridge Hotel with his family's support, but his lack of experience and poor management quickly sent the business into a downward spiral.
And I was very close to running away several times.
Wow.
The worst part? The staff had to endure his harsh, dictator-like leadership.
This is pretty much, you know, up, and then it's pushed aside, and then John is making decisions.
From the very start, Imhoff's stubbornness and arrogance were painfully obvious. He refused to listen to anyone, including his own wife, Tina, who was genuinely worried about the hotel's future.
The Cambridge Hotel, R.I.P.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yes.
It's died, you mean?
No, rest in peace is the ghosts that live here.
Throughout the episode, Imhoff contributed nothing of real value to the hotel. Instead, he focused on all the wrong things, making everything worse with his dismissive and authoritarian attitude.
The tables in the bar might be clean.
The real horror of the Cambridge Hotel was John Imhoff.
It's like someone. Oh. Bloody hell. Who in the hell put this here? This really is Hotel Hell. Oh my God.
His constant interference in hotel operations made everyone's jobs 10 times harder. Whether it was housekeeping, the kitchen, or front desk duties, he simply couldn't keep his nose out of things.
Everything.
John, make sure everything...
What?
We have to have meetings.
John's a lawyer. So why'd you have to ask someone that doesn't know how to run a bar?
Chef Ramsay saw the chaos Imhoff created and realized there was only one way to save launch night: get rid of him. And so, with Tina's help, Ramsay kicked Imhoff out of the kitchen when he tried to meddle.
Nothing, get out. Out!
Night's going great, but I don't think John quite understands.
But Ramsay didn't stop there. To make absolutely sure Imhoff wouldn't ruin anything else, he locked him away on the hotel's haunted floor for the night.
He's so wrong.
With Imhoff finally out of the way, the hotel had a real chance at improvement. Eventually, even he realized the damage he had caused and promised to trust his team moving forward. After all, as Ramsay pointed out, a business can't succeed if the owner doesn't trust the people running it.
Thanks.
And for a while, things actually seemed to be improving. Before closing, the hotel's Yelp reviews were mostly positive. But in June 2012, the Cambridge Hotel shut down after going into foreclosure. The bank ultimately took ownership of the property. As for Imhoff, he left the hotel business completely and took a job at Guantanamo Bay Prison as the officer in charge of the Office of Military Commissions. The hotel building itself was later sold at auction for $375,000 and has since been converted into an assisted living residence. And finally, let's talk about the Monticello Hotel, which was featured in Season 2, Episode 2 of Hotel Hell. Located in Longview, Washington, this historic hotel was owned by Philip Lovingfoss, who inherited it from his late wife, Annabelle Jewell, the original owner. Built in 1923, Monticello was once a thriving business, but over the years, it had fallen into serious decline. Philip was now running the place with his girlfriend, Ginger, but instead of trying to save the hotel, the two of them were living a lavish lifestyle while the business sank deeper into trouble.
With his inheritance, Philip has been living the good life with his girlfriend and general manager, Ginger, who is also 30 years his senior.
Despite the hotel struggling financially, only 4 suites were available for guests. The rest of the building had turned into a storage space filled with old, abandoned furniture.
And there are countless rooms stuffed with Philip and Ginger's crap instead of guests.
But instead of fixing up the existing rooms, Philip and Ginger came up with a different plan. They decided to use the motel next door as an extension of the hotel, calling it the North Wing. This didn't sit well with the guests, who expected to stay in the actual historic hotel, not in a poorly maintained off-site motel. To make things even worse, the rooms in the so-called North Wing were barely cleaned. Some guests even discovered something unsettling.
Oh my gosh!
Cigarette burns.
Oh my gosh! Seriously? That is so gross.
When Chef Ramsay arrived and was about to be taken to the motel instead of the hotel itself, he was absolutely furious. His reaction? Well, let's just say it was exactly what you'd expect.
I'd rather stay in there next door
Okay.
than in this dump.
I'm sorry.
But if he thought the motel was bad, the rooms inside the actual Monticello Hotel weren't much better.
Bloody hell. That sofa's hideous. Who would use a brown sofa like that?
They were just as filthy, neglected, and in desperate need of attention.
Bodily fluids. That's exactly what you're seeing.
I wouldn't want to lay on that bed.
Where these mattresses come from, Philip? That's cigarette holes.
Uh-oh.
Burns.
While the hotel itself was falling apart, the staff had their own problems to deal with. They were overworked, underpaid, and forced to watch as Philip flaunted his wealth without a care in the world.
I still make minimum wage and I've been here 12 years.
Instead of investing in his employees or his business, he was more focused on growing his personal collection of expensive things.
Yay, we're getting it dark. Yeah. Don't flaunt it in our face.
But the biggest issue with Philip wasn't just his spending habits, it was something else entirely.
It is no big secret that Philip drinks.
An embarrassing mess.
Philip had a serious drinking problem. And it wasn't just something he did in his free time, he drank while at work too, making everyone around him uncomfortable. His behavior was a major issue, and it was only a matter of time before Chef Ramsay stepped in to put him in his place.
3 of those cars and put it into the kitchen budget to function for the next 12 months. The chefs can do their job.
You don't care for the customers, and you don't care for your staff. Who do you care for?
After giving Philip a much-needed reality check and overseeing a complete makeover of the hotel, Ramsay left the owners with a brand new Employee of the Month plaque. But instead of recognizing just one person, he made a statement. The entire staff deserved the honor, and more importantly, they deserved to be paid fairly. Over time, business started to pick up, and with the increased revenue, employees finally saw an improvement in their wages. Philip even enrolled in a program to help with his personal struggles. However, despite the initial improvements, things eventually took a turn. In January 2014, the hotel's lounge and restaurant were shut down by the owners as they pursued other ventures. Reviews on TripAdvisor following Ramsay's visit were mixed, with some guests disappointed by the restaurant's closure. Then, in July 2016, Philip's troubles escalated. He was sentenced to 90 days in jail for threatening a district court judge. Just a few months later, in September 2016, the Monticello Hotel was listed for sale and lease online due to mounting debt. By early 2017, it seemed Philip was no longer in charge. New owners had taken over and brought in fresh staff. A large-scale multi-million-dollar renovation took place in October 2017, with plans to reopen the restaurant. But the instability continued, and the hotel changed ownership multiple times in the years that followed. Ultimately, the Monticello Hotel couldn't recover. In August 2019, it shut its doors for good. The historic building was later converted into studio apartments, marketed as a communal living space with shared facilities, a far cry from the grand hotel it was meant to be. With that, we've come to the end of the video. Which hotel owner, according to you, had the craziest turnaround after the show? Let us know in the comments section down below. And don't forget to give us a like and share. Also, if you thought this video as crazy, you must check out the next video right here, it's even better.
The secret behind a good chef is taste.
Today, we're diving into some of the most infamous blind taste tests.